has begun and camp is kind of shaped up is kind of in John Metchie's favor. And a lot of it is stuff that he can control, and a lot of it is stuff that he around him that has just happened to where you start to wonder. And the number one thing, like when you're talking about a guy making the roster, is the numbers game. And the question is, how many wide receivers do we think the Texans are going to keep? Last year they kept 7. Often they keep 6. And the reason you typically keep 7 is if there's someone on your team that is really good at special teams that you think can contribute. And they have Braxton Berrios. And Braxton Berrios has done very well for himself as well. Good start to camp, kind of a quiet time. Then in the game, kind of picked up steam. So he's done everything that he can do as far as convincing them to keep 7. We know they're going to keep Nico Collins. We know they're going to keep Christian Kirk. We know they're going to keep the 2 rookies, Higgins and Knoll. They're going to keep Hutchinson, who's been great. He looks like he's made a lot of progress. And then if they're going to keep 7, it comes down to 3 guys. It comes down to Watson, it comes down to Metchie, and it comes down to Berrios. I think Berrios is good. I think Berrios is good to go. But if you've watched camp, there's a couple of things that have happened, and we already mentioned the Hutchinson thing. But John Metchie has been a much more of a receiving threat than Watson early on in camp. Now, I think part of the reason that they brought in Watson is because they probably didn't really get everything they wanted out of Xavier Hutchinson last year. But he has responded. And right now he is the superior player when it comes to him and Watson. He is by far the superior player, and it's not really even close. And John Metchie right now at receiver is performing at a higher level than Watson. He just is. He's making more plays. Maybe there's a little bit more opportunity, but he's making more plays. He also has chemistry with CJ Stroud, it appears. And he just seems like one of those guys that won't go away. So I think the decision is interesting. Am I pounding the table for John Metchie? No, but I do see a path for John Metchie on this roster, and it's as simple as Xavier Hutchinson has performed better, and John Metchie's performed well. Brevin Jordan goes down, and maybe you kind of expand your imagination a little bit, and you want guys who can perform more. Like if you had Brevin Jordan on the offense, maybe you're just like, okay, Watson, he's kind of a lunch pail type of guy. He's gonna be in the right place, all that. We'll just keep him around. Well, maybe now you're trying to get more creative. And the more dynamic receiver, if we're talking about Metchie and Watson, it's definitely been Metchie. In the offseason, D'Amico was talking about how Watson's one of the most consistent players in the league and all that type of stuff. And they still might like him. He still plays a lot of special teams. But there is definitely a route for Metchie. The possibilities and the imagination whenever you lose one of your top 3 tight ends and it's kind of a position that you start to look in other areas. And I think there is life for John Metchie, and I think there's a case to be made for John Metchie, which admittedly I did not see happening, but it has happened, and we just laid out how and why that has happened. But regardless of whether he stays or not, if John Metchie leaves, you're going to get something for him. Someone is going to kick the tires on John Metchie. Somebody is going to. And credit to him, it might still be a long shot to make this 53, but everything that he has been able to control, he has, and the stuff that he perhaps needed to happen to perhaps get on this 53 has happened as well. So it's been interesting, and I think you can kind of trace it all back. There was a moment where it seemed like the switch kind of flipped for John Metchie, because early on in camp he had a couple drops, and there was one stretch where he dropped a slant on the right side, and then he goes back to on the next play, and on the other side he catches like a post or something like that right after, and boom, it just flipped. We actually talked about it in the moment. So am I going to sit here and say bet the house on John Metchie being on the team? No, but I do think there's a case for John Metchie that wasn't necessarily there, that I didn't see before camp started, but as camp has gone on and a lot of things have happened, there's a case for Metchie.